Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Expanse reaction video. Today I'm going to be watching, reviewing, and reacting to Season 4, Episode 7 of The Expanse. So before I get into this and what's going on with our lovely favorite cast of characters, I do apologize if you hear some noise in the background. There seems to be somebody who is doing some sort of lawn work, one of my neighbors outside at the moment, and it's a bit loud, so hopefully that won't impact the volume or anything that you can hear too much. And then of course I can also hear my birds in the other room are chirping quite loudly at the moment, probably in reaction to the lawnmower, so we've got a bit of background stuff going on. I apologize for that. But I really want to get into the show, keep going right now with The Expanse, finally. So our main cast is all in kind of a bit of a pickle right now, you could say. And we left off at the end of the last episode with Holden, Amos, and most of the settlers, both the Belter settlers and the Earth crew, which consists of the security firm and the scientists, all having to go and hide out in these ruins of the protomolecule civilization to prevent themselves from basically being killed by a giant tidal wave. Meanwhile, Naomi and Alex are up on the Rossi, which also there's a bit of a crisis there because their drives have shut down, they can't move, they can't do anything, and they're in danger of basically burning up the way that the shuttle did. So we're in a chaotic situation for everybody, and I'm definitely curious to see especially what happens inside the ruins, how these people who are all, at each other's throats right now, there's been violence, there's been deaths, there's a tremendous amount of mistrust, how they're gonna, get along trapped inside there together for the foreseeable future, and how they're gonna get out of there. And is Holden gonna make things better or worse? So, alright, let's get into the episode without any more waiting. Season 4, Episode 7, here we go.
Ocean sitting on top of you.
Nowhere at all for us to go?
Not unless you manage to pack a boat.
So how long until we get back to the surface?
I can't tell for sure, but not for a couple of days at least.
Sounds like we're gonna be down here for a while then. Any progress getting the drive back online?
No.
Fusion doesn't work here anymore.
Fucking Miller. How long will the reserves last?
Us and the Edward Israel can maintain orbit for months on batteries, but I run the calculations on the Barb's orbital decay rate. Based on the ship's current altitude, speed, and power reserves, they have...
Maybe a few more days before they fall out of orbit.
I need to come up with something fast.
Keep me up.
To send down a resupply.
You saw what happened to the RCE shuttle. Parachuting supplies might be an option, but we still won't be able to get to anything until the water recedes. Listen, I'm doing everything I can.
What can we do to help you? So we're all just still at the mercy of you and your invisible friend.
Yeah, who we can't even really trust to be particularly helpful at this point in time, it seems. All of Miller's advice kind of making things worse ever since he, I mean, that's an exaggeration. He obviously saved them with going through the... Ah! Oh god. The eye thing. Here we go. More people have it.
It's worse in my left eye, but there's some in my right eye as well.
I can't deal with eye stuff, guys. I really...
Obviously, the predicament that we're in down here and our ships are in up there wasn't something that we could have planned for.
No, but it would help if your people shared some of your supplies with the settlers.
We don't know how long we're going to survive down here, so I need to put the interests of my people first.
It's gonna be a lot shorter for all of us if people begin to starve.
I understand that, which is why we all need to get out of here as soon as possible.
Has company policy suddenly changed?
In light of your recent confession and the fusion problem, all our priorities have changed. You said your ghost friend has been turning on these ancient machines here.
Yeah. Unless we can shut them off, I don't think we'll get our fusion drives back online.
Is there anything my people can do, or help you do?
Like what?
I don't know. I'm just trying to work out exactly what we're dealing with here so that we can possibly help you fix the situation. Nobody wins if we all die.
It's not up to me. Unless Miller comes back, I don't think there's anything I can do.
Mr. Holden. Good, you're both here. I have bad news.
Seems to be contagious.
It's not the only thing.
Yeah, I think.
Before we evacuated, I noticed some kind of microorganism growing in my eye. I've examined nearly everyone here. We are all infected. I still need to check you. Sit down.
You told me it was
So
an
it isn't
allergy.
just an
That's
allergy.
what I've been telling everyone. I don't want to start a panic.
Okay,
Truth
okay.
is-
So that's what I thought.
Single-cell microorganisms native to this planet are making a home in our eyes. They're not hijacking our cells like a virus would, but human bodies are water and high-energy molecules. None of their natural competitors are in us, so our vitreous fluid is a new environment that they are quite happy in. Lots of little green babies filling up the space.
So that they're eating away at our eyes.
I don't
Yes,
like
they
this.
probably will end up eating away at our eyes.
So what can you do?
Right now, nothing. Let me try again.
So how long until people start going blind?
They already are. I can't be sure until we all lose sight, but maybe a day.
Day? That's all? Why is it suddenly happening now?
A day and everyone goes
These
blind.
things like salt water. That flood probably acted like a great big exposure event. Also, we're all living in each other's pockets, so everything is going
So
to
again,
spread more
all because
easily.
of Holden and Miller.
Have you noticed any kind of green spots or floaters in your eyes?
No, not at all.
Holden's not
You don't seem to
infected.
be infected.
Everyone's infected. But him. Does this maybe have something to do with your alien ghost friend?
It couldn't. It's only a transmission in my head.
How do you know?
I need a blood sample from you.
Holden, how
Doctor,
do you
I
can't.
think it goes without saying that curing this is our main priority now. All of our safety depends on it.
I'll do everything I can.
Ooh. Well, how do we make the situation worse than it already was? Let's infect everyone with a parasitic amoeba sort of thing that makes everybody go blind. Except Holden, of course. So, for some reason. And we don't know how to deal with it, and we're all gonna be trapped in here not being able to see. Great. Good circumstances. Here we go.
Touch me! Fucking thief! Did not do nothing! You tried to steal our water! I'm going to get my own water! You fucking liar! Stand down! What? He was trying to steal. Stand the fuck down!
And get back to your post, that's an order. Go!
Interesting development.
Hey. Come on.
He is helping him. This must be a manipulation of some kind.
This is only the beginning.
Yep.
At some point, you know, we're gonna have to kill some of these people.
In things like this, that's what always happens.
In that you seem to be immune.
Well, not everybody got the plague.
Not everybody talks to an alien.
Going blind doesn't sound as bad anymore.
And alien, is that really an accurate description?
You make it sound like a burden.
Now, if you knew the guy talking to me, you'd feel the same way.
Oh, come on. Miller's your
I
friend.
don't think I would. You're being given knowledge and answers that humans have only dreamt about.
I've also been given horrific nightmares and visions of death I can never unsee.
To me, that sounds like an acceptable trade-off.
Hmm?
I have traveled billions of kilometers to be the first exobiologist to study the most basic forms of extraterrestrial life. And you, on the other hand, are the only person in human history with a direct line of communication to an advanced alien species. And you're annoyed?
It's not the same when you don't have the choice.
Any scientist would kill to change places with you. I know I would.
That's interesting. She's got serious points here, Holden. She's like, you gotta get over yourself a little bit here, because what you're experiencing is
How the
the
Delta's
most
holding up.
unprecedented of
They're not all
unprecedented
gonna
things.
make it.
It's not the optimism I was hoping for.
What the fuck?
What is that?
What the fuck?
He's dead now too. Whatever those
Don't touch!
things are,
What is happening?
they kill that
Those
fast.
slugs.
They're that
Killed
poison.
them.
Jesus, stay away from the water.
Where are they coming from?
Stay away from everything. Shit. Are you kidding me? They're all about to be blind.
Everywhere.
And these fucking poison slugs are literally all over the walls.
This is UNMC-1. The Pazuzu. It's gone.
Was it a trap? It was a trap. Oh shit. So that was just a gigantic trap to lure UN people out there so that they could what? So that they could kill UN soldiers as part of whatever Marco's terroristic, or I guess he would try to say revolutionary plan is. Well, I'm imagining that's gonna go pretty badly for Avasarala and her election, which is inching closer and closer with each passing episode. She's already at this point, as we've seen, Gao is getting closer and closer to her in terms of polls, percentage-wise, so I'm sure this isn't gonna be something that's gonna necessarily help. But, I mean, thinking about it, what were the decisions that she had? They have to be on the lookout for Marco. They know what he has done, that he is hitting these colony ships. He is a danger to people's lives. They don't even know the extent of everything that he's doing. But they know that he's a threat, so it makes sense they go out to get him. And what are the two options that are presented to her, right? To try and board this freighter that he's on and try to extract him, or to just blow it up, blow up the freighter altogether. And, you know, I think part of the reason it's gonna not go so great with her is because when she was justifying the reason to have the strike team go in and board the freighter, she was saying things about it would be great to be able to capture him and put him on trial and have him be an example to other Belters of what to do, what we will do if they try and break the peace or try and break this fragile peace we've established. And that seems like, you know, as her husband was saying to her throughout the course of the episode, that seems like her being very politically motivated, maybe thinking more towards the election and the image she wants to put forward, so to speak. So I think that there's that potential for her actions to be seen in that light, and if they are seen in that light, that's going to be very bad for her. But at the same time, you have to think of it, I mean, if she just blew up the freighter with a bunch of other people on it who may have, you know, no responsibility in whatever it is that Marco is doing, or be unaware of what it is that he's doing, who don't deserve to just get blown out of the sky, then she's just executing a bunch of people. At the same time, a bunch of UN Navy soldiers just died, and again, I'm sure it's not going to look good for her if the concern is that she put their lives on the line and they ended up losing them, and even if she did it with the goal of saving the lives of other people who may be innocent, I'm sure a lot of people on Earth, with whatever biases and prejudices they have, are not going to think that the lives of their own soldiers were worth risking to protect the lives of Belters, unfortunately. So I feel like even if people are going to interpret that in the best possible light for Avasarala in terms of her motivations, it's still going to look bad, and she was already not in a good position in terms of the polls with Nancy Gow. I'm kind of worried for her in terms of losing potentially this election. I mean, and Arjun was saying, you know, would it be that bad if you were to lose? And that comes back to like another big thing that I was talking about throughout the course of this episode with a lot of the characters, is that they're dealing with kind of anxiety surrounding the potential loss of a sense of control. And how that manifests for Avasarala is that, you know, maybe for most of her life she wasn't, I guess, selfishly motivated, kind of she wasn't a politician who was trying to advance her own career at the expense of everything else. She was motivated in order to try and do what she thought was best for Earth, and that sometimes led her to doing despicable things, but she wasn't like the kind of craven politician per se, the way, say, the former Secretary General who she replaced, who we saw previously in the other seasons. He was clearly just concerned about his own image and power. It's not that she's of that perspective, but she's getting to the point where it seems she's adopting some of those tactics of people like that in order to stay in power, because she is concerned of what will happen if anyone else is in power, because she knows what it felt like to feel as though she was powerless in the face of Earth's potential destruction due to Eros, in the face of a lot of the crazy crises that have happened over the past couple of seasons. Now she is the one heading up the UN, and she doesn't want to possibly risk losing that sense of control that she's established, especially when they're facing things like all these other worlds that are accessible to the Ring Gate and not having any clue of what could possibly be coming through them that is a threat to humanity. So I guess she's in a position where, because of her concern about that, she's feeling a deep need to maintain control, and that's leading her to acting in ways that maybe she normally wouldn't. And I just think it's interesting to compare that to other characters in the show right now who are kind of experiencing a similar sort of, I don't know, uncharacteristicness due to the potential loss of control that they're about to face, especially Amos. The way that he was looking when he heard the news from Holden that everybody's going to go blind, he's coming to that realization everyone's going to go blind, including him. Well, everyone except for Holden. That's going to put him in a position where he's going to be experiencing a kind of loss of control and a type of weakness, potentially, that is very different for him. And that led to him, to me, looking kind of frightened, which, again, I mentioned, I think, when I was watching the episode, that Amos had said to Alex before that he hasn't experienced fear since he was a kid, and Alex was like, oh, I'm jealous of you. He says, no, you're not. Amos says, no, you don't want to be that way. But this has to be some sort of kind of fear, even if it's just like an anxiety and uncertainty, a situation that he's not familiar with, and that he's probably fought very hard ever since he was a child to ever avoid, which was being in a place of extreme kind of vulnerability. Because Amos is someone who is not afraid to die at all, so it's not that. And he's not afraid to get hurt necessarily. He's willingly put himself on the line to get horribly injured multiple times, but I mean, probably the idea of not dying, not being, like, killed in the line of like protecting people, but just having his parts of his body give out so that he can no longer feel useful and have to be basically dependent on others to get by, probably is something that he, in his own way, is afraid of. And I'm concerned for him if this progresses and he does end up going blind because of this. Speaking of that, I'm honestly concerned for all of them down there in that hellhole of a structure that they're now trapped within. They can't get out because the water levels are not receding as fast as they had hoped. There's no way for any of the ships above to send anybody down with extra supplies or anything to help them in their situation. So they're trapped in there with dwindling supplies, and now on top of that, they have a sort of parasitic organism that is launching and inside their eyes and growing and eating away at their eyes, so that every single one of them except Holden is on the verge of going blind, which, to begin with, disaster, because they're not going to be able to, like, take care of themselves or get around very well. They already were in a difficult situation because of their dwindling supplies. They were already in a difficult situation where they were starting to have conflicts with each other because of those supplies, because of the close quarters, because of fear. That's just going to be multiplied like tenfold if suddenly no one can see. And now, on top of that, these sort of slug creatures that are apparently so extremely toxic that one touching you for just a few seconds almost immediately just kills you. Now these things are like all over the walls of the structure. And they couldn't even like really easily and clearly see them until Holden shined the lights up there, so they were directly on them. So there's toxic, like not even just kind of toxic, but immediate death toxic creatures all over the walls of this thing, and everyone except Holden is about to go blind, so they won't be able to avoid bumping into the walls or other things. So we're in a situation where a bunch of them are about to be at dire risk of immediate death and not really have anything that they can do about it. And what? So Holden's going to be the only one that can see, so he's going to have to try and help everyone, protect everyone. And the doctor is, you know, trying her best to come up with some sort of explanation, a cure, and I assume they're going to have to figure something out. She's going to have to figure something out very soon that will kind of prevent the blindness in other people, or at least like downplay it some, because I don't see how else they're going to get out of this situation. Speaking of that, I'm very curious also to find out, going forward into the upcoming episodes, why exactly is it that Holden is immune? Is it because of his connection to Miller and the protomolecule? And if so, does that suggest that the protomolecule has impacted, shaped Holden and his physiology in some way that he was unaware of? You know, he was coming out of that saying, well, Miller's just kind of like a vision beamed into my head, but maybe it's more than that. And if, I mean, does it suggest that whatever these organisms in the eyes are have some of connection to the protomolecule in some way too? Whether it be a direct connection or sort of like a negative connection, so that they can live in the human eyes, but they can't live in the eyes of like a human who has been touched by the protomolecule or impacted it in some way. I don't know. That's mysterious. We just, for some reason, Holden is immune to them at this point in time. So it'll be interesting to see if we find out why that is the case. And again, as I mentioned, if there's some sort of connection between the eye parasites and the slug things, or is it just a horrible coincidence, or something to do with, you know, the environmental change, the environmental crisis is bringing out all these parasitic creatures or something. Yeah, so a lot of questions leading us into the last just 3 episodes, I think, left to go in the season. So some big things that are still going to be coming up. This was kind of another building episode in a way, laying the foundation for, I think, the final 3 episodes, which will probably have the climax of a lot of the major issues. We didn't see Bobby at all this episode. We didn't see Drummer and Ashford at all this episode. So going forward, we're going to have more of whatever is Bobby's situation happening there, and Drummer and Ashford and their situation and how that plays into what Marco has just done, which I'm sure it's going to have an impact because, again, Drummer's the one that chose to let him go. So we'll see how that ends up playing out for the Peace Alliance. So we'll have that. We'll have the culmination of everything happening with Avasarala and her election, however that turns out. And then we have the crisis in space. We're going to see if they're going to successfully save the Barb or not. And then the big crisis I've been talking about throughout this summation, of course, as well, with everyone down on the ground. So a lot of things left to come, a lot of questions I still need answered. And of course, Miller. Where the hell is Miller right now in the midst of all of this? Is he gonna pop back up and do something to help or, you know, make things worse somehow? I don't know. But alright guys, I think I'm gonna wrap this up here. So thank you so much for joining me. I had mentioned previously, next week we're gonna have episode 8, and then the week after that I'm gonna try to do 9 and 10 together back to back. Just in case there's some sort of cliffhanger on the second to last episode, as there often is with The Expanse. But alright everybody, so again, thank you very much for being here. If you have questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. Otherwise, just thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye.